Since its release on December 6th, Marvel Rivals has captured audiences worldwide. With a first-month performance of over $130 million in revenue, at the rate that Marvel Rivals is accumulating money, Blizzard could have finally afforded some civil defense lawyers for their employees. Everyone's wondering how the Overwatch killer managed to attract, and now retain, a player base of over 400,000 active players. More importantly, will it even stick around? Or could one Thanos snap lying in wait turn Marvel Rivals to dust? Alright, if you're new to this channel, welcome. My name's Bree, or you can call me Lucky. And this is Kakashi, who now wants to join me for this video. I'll be your guide on today's game journey. It's important for me to make a disclaimer that I am an employee of Warner Bros. Games, but my opinions are my own and do not reflect or represent that of the company. I make this video in my own free time as an individual consumer and not an employee. If you'd like more information, you're welcome to check out the description. But if you're all good with that and you like video game commentary, industry trends, or just like gabbing about games in general, this is gonna be the community for you. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. And let's get into the marvel that is Marvel Rivals. Alright, to start things off, we need to address the Hulk-sized elephant in the room. Marvel is one of the biggest superhero IPs of all time, if not arguably the largest in today's day and age. And not by sitting around and doing nothing. Marvel established themselves early in 3 core media forms. Hi! You want to talk about Marvel? That would set them up for a multi-generational fan base. The first media form they mastered was comics. Marvel issue number 1 was released in 1939, and it featured smaller characters like the Human Torch or the Submariner. According to Marvel's website, the MCU that we actually really recognize and know today started with the Fantastic Four number 1 issue released in 1961. As an aside, this comic was also credited with bringing Stan Lee and Jack Kirby into the spotlight for the first time. The second media form they're most known for is movies. Most Marvel fans know already that the first movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe franchise started in 2008, Iron Man. But did you know? At 43 movies, the Marvel Cinematic Universe is the largest movie franchise to date. It would take around 4 or 5 days of 24/7 watching just to get through all of the movies. Really puts the Lord of the Rings in perspective. Anyway, forget the comics, forget the movies. We are here to talk about games. And trust me, outside of the efforts around comics and movies, Marvel was there winning gamers' hearts early. Now, let's test our viewers with some Marvel trivia. The first Marvel game came out in 1982. Can you guess what superhero was the star? I'll give you a second to comment your answer. Don't worry if you're not sure. We're all here to learn, right? Alright, if you guessed the Hulk, you are wrong. Like, really wrong. But if you guessed your friendly neighborhood Spiderman, ding ding ding! Good on you for knowing Marvel trivia. While I wasn't able to find a comprehensive list of all the video games the Marvel IP ever published, most of my sources indicated the 1982 Spider-Man game for Atari and Odyssey 2 as the very first. Developed by Laura Nikolic, it's the second game ever in the superhero genre. It earned a rating of 3 out of 4 from Electronic Fun with Computers and Games, which is the only kind of critic rating I could find in that game at the time. I guess IGN was still kind of being cooked in their founders' minds. But still, 75% isn't too shabby for that era. And little did they know, this Spider-Man game would be the first of hundreds to come in the coming decades. Anyway, I don't need to sit here and describe statistics like 27,000 comic books published, or again, 43 movies, making it the largest cinematic franchise in history, to get you to understand how recognizable Marvel is as an IP. But in order to connect audience recognition to customer base, I do have one big crazy number to share. This chart comparing box office history for the MCU shows that from their worldwide releases alone, they've made around or over $31 billion. This number does not include revenue generated from their merchandise, their limited TV series, their partner deals, streaming, theme parks, none of that. None of that is included in $31 billion. To put this in even more perspective, the second highest grossing franchise, the Star Wars franchise, comes in the same category at $10 billion. $10 billion. So, the MCU is earning a lot of carrots, especially when you're looking relative to their competitors. Well, you could make the argument that it might be a numbers game. For example, more movie equals more monies. I'm going to pop up some additional franchise statistics that would really call that into question. The point is, not only has there been a lot of Marvel in the world for a long time, there are a lot of Marvel fans. To prove even more how this translates to video games, we only need to look at the Google user reviews. When you look at Google user reviews for Marvel games, fans fairly often tend to report over 80% enjoyment of the game, even if the Metacritic scores are a bit painful to stomach. Yikes, Iron Man. So what does all this suggest about Marvel Rivals? It implies that the inherent act of attaching the Marvel IP to a video game brings along with it the established Marvel fanbase. It boosts their chances of drawing in an audience significantly because an audience has already existed for decades and decades. All trends point to Marvel fans' voracious appetite for Marvel games. The gross dollar amount that they're willing to spend on their favorite superheroes has been documented time and time again in every single form you can imagine. But wait. Before you think all I'm saying is Marvel plus game equals profit, I'm not. Slapping Marvel colors on a hero shooter isn't all they did to make this game a success. Knowing how passionate their community is, they made two critical choices at launch that ultimately helped their initial reception. The first thing, the game is free. It costs no money to play Marvel Rivals. With entry costs like $60 for the original Overwatch and its current competitor Overwatch 2 having a rumored thousands of dollars deep catalog, including paid characters, Marvel Rivals clearly comes out looking like the Hallmarkian Christmas tree farmer to players who have been in a long-term toxic relationship with a New York finance bro. The second critical thing Marvel Rivals did: no locked characters. Currently, all 35 Marvel Rivals characters are available to play. Not only that, the initial suite of characters they started with included some of the most popular and highly sought after characters in their entire franchise. They started this game on the right foot by listening to their community and representing what they wanted in the game. They catered to the Marvel fans' fantasy of being a hero and working alongside their favorite heroes. Ultimately, they gave their fans the experience of playing with the heroes that they love the most. And here's the other angle to having all your characters unlocked. Players as a whole don't appreciate feeling like more money means more winning. Having all possible characters available from the get-go makes all players feel like they're on equal footing to succeed. Right now, you can't buy your success in Marvel Rivals, which makes players feel like their ability to win is tied to their level of skill, not the depths of their pockets. And then the bigger picture here is the Marvel Cinematic Universe was freaking born for a hero shooter franchise. It's literally in the name. Hero, shooter. Ugh, Marvel has both. And with an already established multi-generational fan base that the publishers know like the back of their hand, this team hit the ground sprinting. But established fame isn't all that Marvel Rivals has on its side. They say luck is when preparation meets opportunity. And there's no better opportunity than the downfall of your main competitor, Overwatch. Overwatch's downfall has been coming for a good long time. From the disappointing release of Overwatch 2 to a plethora of polarizing game balance changes that make players feel like they're eating overwatered tofu every time they try to log on and play a match. Yeah, its end is nearing the horizon. Some of the complaints about Overwatch entailed boring team compositions, or what some people kind of refer to when they talk about the meta. Polarizing hero buffs led to stale team composition, especially when players were locked in by a role queue system. Team composition, also being comprised of 5v5s, started to give rise to a common complaint that these limited spots could result in teams with significant personal imbalance. Because you're only allowed to have a set number of tanks, supports, and damage, having a really good or really bad tank in that one tank slot, for example, is going to drastically change the outcome of your game. Another criticism by players of Overwatch was that fights could be occasionally short and unrewarding. Ultimate dumping, or ult dumping, became a necessary part of the Overwatch Overwatch meta. But when people are clearing the battlefield dozens of seconds into a match, it creates an incredibly unfulfilling battle on both sides. Quick isn't always bad, but when it's as simple as clicking a button, it doesn't exactly reward strategy or clever gameplay. It's pretty easy to see how this could get stale over time. Beyond the game itself, Overwatch has quickly outgrown its good favor as a positive change in the gaming landscape. Players grew tired of sinking money and time into a game that was constantly rebalancing and changing from what they had grown accustomed to. In addition, Blizzard hasn't really done much to regain community favor after recent years' news about their notoriously toxic work culture. But at the end of the day, Overwatch's downfall means one big thing for the competitive hero shooter genre. There is an opening. A market gap. While we can't say if Marvel Rivals factored in Overwatch's decline into their release window, we can say that whether good luck or good planning, the opportunity was there. And boy, did Marvel Rivals take it. On first launch, Marvel Rivals very quickly got a reputation for being Overwatch in italics. And for good reason. There are a ton of similarities between Overwatch and Marvel Rivals. We've got map designs, character abilities, or just the characters themselves. I mean, Black Widow, Widowmaker, okay, that one is maybe more of an archetype, but still, we all see it. We all see it. Now, some folks might call this lazy or even a ripoff, but in games, studying your competitors and taking inspiration from them is key to developing a successful game. Remember, what a good artist understands is that nothing comes from nowhere. All creative work builds on what's come before. Nothing is completely original. Prior to the release of their game, Marvel Rivals probably spent several years observing and researching their competitors, and then carefully selecting features that they thought would appeal the most to their target demographic. And it's not just from Overwatch either. The minute that I saw Marvel Rivals art, I knew that they were taking direction from games like Valorant. I mean, just look at Black Widow's hair swoop. And do I even need to talk about Hawkeye and Sova? But let's actually talk about what all this inspiration and mimicry gives Marvel Rivals. Beyond taking from the best of other games, Marvel Rivals capitalize on this critical piece: player familiarity. By tactfully integrating some of the most iconic staples in the genre, they're making it incredibly easy for someone in their target demographic to pick up the game and find something that they like about it. There's a psychology to using familiarity as a means to generate positive feelings. The more we encounter something, whether it be concepts, art, game style, the more our brains develop a preference for it. It's called the exposure effect. And from a marketing standpoint, it's a very powerful tool to endear players to your title. Ultimately, to create a successful title, the name of the game is reducing friction. The more seamlessly you can transition an already active, paying customer base into your product, the less of an uphill battle you'll have to fight to increase your game's audience. It does come with its drawbacks though. Strategies like this one are what can make AAA games feel very samey to players. In Marvel Rivals' case though, it truly worked in their favor. They designed their game with the intention of appealing to players that would enjoy other games such as Overwatch. And ultimately, we see how that's worked out for them. Now to preface this section, I myself am not an expert at hero shooter metas. However, some wonderful coworkers of mine are. As highly experienced Overwatch gone Marvel Rivals players, they were super kind and helped guide my research for this section. What we were able to discover together is how the Marvel Rivals meta actually does differ from Overwatch, and what in particular makes it so striking right now. Big, super grateful shout out to TJ and Jason. And now let's dive into the meta. Now, for all the accusations about Marvel Rivals being a clone of Overwatch, we can say for sure there are some clear differences in the Marvel Rivals meta that players really seem to enjoy. One of them being the team-ups. Because experimenting with character combos yields a number of different benefits to your team, players are disincentivized to stick in one particular character or role. Creativity and variety is rewarded in this game because it can give you a strategic advantage, and it encourages cooperation in pursuit of winning the game. which anecdotally, I wonder if it's caused more positive interactions between Marvel Rivals players than Overwatch players. Players just have a lot of options to give themselves an advantage. It's also worth noting at this stage that the meta is not fully realized yet, but the exciting part about that is that the gameplay is ever evolving. To understand why this meta shift is so powerful at winning over players, we have to return to our dear old friend Overwatch. And for those of you who are considering skipping this section because you're not interested in meta, put your cursor down. I'm going to explain this using the most commonly understood concept in all of humanity, the sandwich. So let's pretend that the requirement to win a game of Marvel Rivals or Overwatch is to build a sandwich.
Hey everybody, it's Editor Bree here. So I'm not gonna lie to you, I totally beefed up the class names because I kind of got lost and everything. Anyways, no excuse. I should have just, been a little more focused here. So I just want to prepare you for the most egregious voiceover ever. And anybody who can roast me the best for this, I will like your comment and pin it. Thank you.
The Overwatch sandwich building station has the basics. Vegetables,
Tanks, damage,
our meats, cheeses,
support.
These will be our character classes. Now, this isn't so bad. You could definitely make a sandwich here. But let's say the Overwatch sandwich shop has one rule. You can only make a BLT or a turkey sandwich. On first glance, that's not so bad, right? You do have a sandwich overall, and that's dinner. That's a good evening, I guess. But let's say, right next to the Overwatch sandwich shop, the Marvel Rivals sandwich shop pops up. Now at the Marvel Rivals sandwich shop, we have the same basic components as the Overwatches. Like we have cheeses, meats, and veggies. Classes, right? The same classes. But instead of just 2 sandwiches you can make, the Marvel Rivals sandwich shop says, we have no rules. Make whatever the you want. Ham, tomato, American, lettuce, turkey, onion, Swiss, spring mix. But wait, no, instead of just ham and turkey, we also have other kinds of meats, if you're interested. Now Marvel Rivals Sandwich Shop has ham, turkey, chicken, beef, and more. Lettuce, spring mix, arugula, microgreens. The possibilities of the types of sandwiches you can make are limitless. And to top it all off, not only do we have an increased variety of ingredients, we have more complex ingredients. Instead of ham that's just ham, now we have honey roasted ham or black forest ham. Characters which can flex into different classes and provide different benefits to different characters across different classes because their flavors are all integrating and mingling together in the sandwich. So to come back to my main point, Marvel Rivals isn't just Overwatch with Marvel characters. They've added a level of complexity to the meta that sets the scene for creativity, strategy, and a little bit of spice of the unknown. In addition to what we actually know about the meta, we have a lot of anecdotal evidence from players supporting that the game feels much different to them. A lot of players cite that their heroes feel exceptionally overpowered. Usually, that kind of anecdote is connected to why the game is fun. While different people kind of explain different reasons why they feel their heroes overpowered, I can point to at least 2 main examples of why players might get this feeling. The first is the responsive, destructible physics of the map. Using your hero's powers in particular locations on the map allows you to feel the effects of their strength. Columns shatter, floors crack. It's all a part of the intentional level and art design to make the player feel as though they're actually powerful. Another possibility hinges on the perceived capabilities of the characters themselves. Each character seemingly has the potential to reach the maximum of their ability. The player feels at any moment in a match, they could play a hero just right and take complete control of the battlefield for their moment in the spotlight. What both of these explanations indicate to me is that the Marvel Rivals team has taken special care to make players feel as though their contributions matter, fulfilling players' fantasies by making them feel powerful alongside their favorite heroes is just the cherry on top to the added complexities of this game. Now, with so many things going right, it's hard to imagine what could be the Achilles heel to this marvel of gaming.
Got it!
But it's important to remember, we're basically only a month into Marvel Rivals' actual launch. A lot remains to be seen about how the game continues to perform, especially once the honeymoon phase wears off. Critics are calling out a few potential pitfalls at this point. The first, that progressions are absent. What we mean by that is there's not a lot drawing players back into the game every single day. Well, nothing at this point except their own entertainment. Once dailies are complete, there's few carrots for players to chase. Sure, they can accumulate some of their currency towards the new skins, but skins itself being accessible to everybody at this point, if you are able to, pay the fee, doesn't exactly challenge people to go above and beyond for this game. The second possible pitfall is balance tweaking. To me, this is the most glaringly obvious problem, but one that many games face on launch. The added narrative here is that Marvel Rivals will not just have to fix the balance one, but continue to maintain a good balance for the literal lifespan of this game. And they'll have to avoid falling down into the overwatered tofu pit that Overwatch succumbed to. Balance issues are a polarizing issue in any PvP game. While sunk monetary cost into the game isn't yet a problem for players, it's very possible it may one day be. And whenever you play with your player's wallet and make them feel as though their purchases have been wasted, oof, you are in for an unhappy time. Another current criticism of Marvel Rivals right now is that the meta is just too unpredictable. Ultimately, if there are players who want to take this game competitively, they're going to have a really hard time developing a sound strategy. This, again, has a possibility to be remedied over time, and it could just be that that strategy hasn't been found yet, but it is something I've heard floating around, is that there's just so much chaos when it comes to this game. Some people love it, but some people really don't like it. Finally, game-breaking bugs. The usual suspects. I'll just name a few hot topic ones, but current difficulties with the placement of the hitbox on other players, in conjunction with damage per second seemingly being attributed to frames per second for players, has caused some frustration. But out of all of these, I think one issue rises to the top as the most dangerous threat to the long-term success of Marvel Rivals. And it is not Thanos. It's game balance, but not 100% in the way you're thinking. Overwatch had many problems, but if we're to learn anything from the ghosts of our past, this small but frequent bite of balance tweaking polarized its community drastically. Changing these buffs is no small thing. With Overwatch players sometimes only maining one or two characters, nerfing them both could mean a potential high-spending customer doesn't log in for the entire season. So far, there have been two proposed solutions to Marvel Rivals' balance issue. The first, don't f*** up balance. Ever. The second, don't give a f*** about balance. Ever. Balance is the hot buzzword in competitive hero shooters. Most everyone agrees that it's got some problems right now in Marvel Rival, but there are wildly different solutions being proposed as a result. There's a trend surfacing right now where longtime Overwatch players, being so over the balance tweaking in Overwatch, find Marvel Rivals' lack of caution refreshing. As Marvel Rivals appeals heavily to casual players, most experienced Overwatch players comment there's a strong likelihood that an average Marvel Rival player wouldn't really notice the difference between balance tweaks, meaning that being a little careless about the meta, as long as it's not too egregious, well, is fine. Then there's the other camp of folks. These folks cite that the lack of balance is exactly what makes Marvel Rivals less fun. See, these players are doing everything they can to make sense of why Squirrel Girl throwing an acorn is equivalent to Hawkeye's power-up shot. To them, the game feels wonky and chaotic. And it's natural that with so much chaos, you'll have players who are used to worlds that made a lot more sense. And now they're walking around the battlefield like Jeff the Land Shark in socks. In Marvel Rivals' case, we already have players trying to get certain characters nerfed. The concern about balance is not an if, it is a when, and the when is now. It's real time the biggest danger to Marvel Rivals' long-term success. Gameplay balance also carries the heaviest consistent risk. With their enormous launch catalog of characters and absolutely no plans to slow down, the team is constantly going to have to refactor each new hero as well as the existing ones with every new release. When you combine that consistent presence of risk with that level of impact on player enjoyment, it's a no-brainer that it's a huge threat. Most of the other issues described by critics wouldn't really be unreasonable for the team to solve within the first year, especially because it's a live service game. It is made to have constant updates. They can always introduce new progressives with time or sharpen up their meta. When it comes to balance though, the only solution is a super sharp game design team that will weigh player feedback extremely carefully against their own design expertise. At the end of it all, they may have to decide what kind of game they want to be. After all, you can't really satisfy both camps entirely, right? Without careful consideration on how they plan to tackle player feedback about balance, the fun of Marvel Rivals will only buy them so much time. Well, it's undeniable. Marvel Rivals is blowing their competition out of the water. More than a fluke, they've made a concentrated effort to learn from the mistakes of their predecessors. That, their deep connection with their already established fan base, and a little bit of luck, has allowed them a start worthy of exceptional jealousy in the AAA game industry. However, it is still anyone's game. Listening closely to player feedback will either support Marvel Rivals' continued domination, or put them down in the books as another one-hit wonder. If you've been playing Marvel Rivals, I want to hear from you. What hooked you on the game? And do you see it sticking around? Comment below. And while you're at it, why not give this video a like and this channel subscribe? You probably won't regret it. And if you do, well, then I respect your opinion. There's nothing I can do about it. Before I go, I want to again give a major shout out to my coworkers TJ and Jason. Thank you y'all again for providing experience anecdotes about Overwatch and Marvel Rivals. Your consultation was invaluable and helpful to my research, and I'm sure appreciated by the viewers here who didn't have to watch me make up stuff about meta for like half an hour. Alright, that's it from me, sending you off with a little bit of luck in your pockets. Bye y'all!